Good evening. Welcome to the City of Riverbank Regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board meetings. Today is Tuesday, June 26, 2018. It is 6 p.m. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I don't see anyone from ministerial staff. Roll call, please.
Council Authority Member Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Here.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Darlene Barbara Martinez.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. Any changes to the agenda tonight? We are going to discuss separately item 51B, which is Crossroads Landscaping and Lighting District. We have several members who are on the, who live in that landscape and lighting district, and that'll be a separate item from the others, and we will draw lots to see who gets to stay here to conduct the public hearing. With that, any council or authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. I have a conflict with 51B.
I have a conflict with 51B, and I also will recuse myself from item 6.2.
And I have a conflict with 6.2.
I have a conflict with item 5.1B.
And you have 5.12, did he mention that? Okay. All right. Item 2, public comment. No action can be taken at this time. Members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matters presented under public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the City Council LRA staff. Do we have public comment? Seeing no public comment, we're going to continue with the consent calendar. Consisting of item 3A, waive reading. Item 3B, approval of June 12th, 2018 City Council Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. Item 3C, award bid to VSS International, Inc. for the pavement preservation project and authorize execution of future change orders. Item 3D, a resolution granting an exception to Riverbank Municipal Code, Section 94.12, Foxtrot, prohibiting water bounce houses in city parks of Chapter 94 Park Regulations of Title 9, General Regulations for a Family City Event. I have on item 3B, I'd like to make a clarification for the record. In regards to consideration of item 6.2 of the June 12th agenda to place a measure on the November 6th, 2018 ballot for a cannabis business tax, we would like to make it clear that the staff report and other materials presented that refer to the city of Patterson was a clerical error. And naturally, we meant it was the city of Riverbank. Do I have anyone who would like to comment on or pull any of the consent items? Anyone from the public wishing to discuss any of the consent items? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on the consent calendar.
Council Authority Member Fossey.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Jones-Cruz.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5, public hearing, consisting of item 5.1. 2 resolutions for each landscape and lighting district to amend and/or approve the engineer's report and the levy and collection of annual assessments related thereto for the fiscal year 2018-2019, and ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments for fiscal year 2018-2019. The landscaping and lighting districts are named as follows. Item 5.1A, Consolidated Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5.1B, Crossroads Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5.1C, Ridgewood Place Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5.1D, River Cove Landscaping and Lighting District. Item 5.1E, Sierra Vista Estate Landscaping and Lighting District. At this time, we'll take all items with the exception of item 5.1B.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Development Services Administration Manager Kathleen Cleek will be giving the report this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So annually, we go through this. Each of the landscape and lighting districts are reviewed and assessed. We look at the budgets and make sure everything's accounted for. We're able to provide the maintenance under the budget that's the previous budget. So tonight I'm recommending the approval of fiscal year 18-19 engineer reports, order of the levy, and collection of the annual assessments for these 4 landscape and lighting districts. So we have Consolidated, Ridgewood Place, River Cove, and Sierra Vista Estates. So these 4 landscape and lighting districts were formed pursuant to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972. The annual assessments cover the cost of landscape maintenance, street lights, and capital improvements. District budgets are reviewed annually. So all 4 of these landscape and lighting district budgets will remain the same. There will be no increases. So Consolidated, we have Courtney Estates, South Bend, Elmwood Estates, Keontae, Sterling Ridge, and Eastwood Estates. And there'll be no change from fiscal year 17-18 to 18-19.
Thank you.
Ridgewood Place, again, that will be the same. River Cove will stay the same. And Sierra Vista will also stay the same. So tonight's recommendation is that you approve the engineer's reports and the collection of annual assessments for the 4 landscape and lighting districts.
Thank you. Before we let her go, are there any questions from the council? This is a public hearing. I open for public comment. Say no public comment. Oh, you coming on up?
Yeah. This, the lighting, the lighting that you talk about, are you talking about, like the city lights and stuff?
Yes, sir. We're talking about city lights in certain districts
Okay.
that the residents pay for and not the city.
Okay, because those lights in Riverbank that's, out, and there's also a light that keeps blinking off on in one of those parks in Riverbank.
Okay, do you know where that light is that blinks on
I
and
know the
off?
name of the park, but I can't think of it. Actually, get back to you.
Please
the
get
name of
back
it.
to us on that.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing no further public comment, I close public comment. Bring it back to the council for recommendations and/or consideration on item 5.1A, C, D, and E.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation as stated for these 4 districts.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on 2 resolutions each for the landscape and lighting district for amend and or approve the engineering report and ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments.
Council members Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
at this time, we'll draw lots of one sort or another, or cards, or
We'll draw coins.
coins?
So this is for Mayor O'Brien, Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez, and Councilmember Jones Cruz. We'll draw the coins, and the number with the highest, and the coin with the highest number will remain to make the quorum and vote on this item, on the Crossroads item.
$15.
I have 8.
Hey, Darlene. It's Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez will remain at the dais. Okay. Vice Mayor, that means you will be presiding.
Yeah, and I think Kathleen has that part of the report she's going to share.
Yes.
So, good evening again. So tonight, we're going to be recommending the consideration for the fiscal year 18-19 engineers report and order of levy and collection of annual assessments for the Crossroads Landscape and Lighting District. So the Crossroads Landscape and Lighting District was formed pursuant to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972. Annual assessments cover the cost of landscape maintenance, street lights, and capital improvements. District budgets are reviewed annually. So within the Crossroads Landscape and Lighting District, assessments will remain the same within the district benefit and within each zone. So as you can see, the district benefit in each zone for fiscal year 17, 18, 18, 19 will stay the same. There'll be no increase to the residents. So tonight, I'm asking for approval of the fiscal year 18-19 engineers report and order of levy and collection of annual assessments for the Crossroads Landscape and Lighting District.
Thank you. Do we have any questions about the report for Crossroads for 51B? Okay, this is a public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public for item 51B? No public comment, so we will bring it back to the council for an action.
I move that we accept item 5 point, did I say that right? 5.2 as stated.
1B.
5.1B.
Say that again. 5.2B as stated. That's right.
Just correction, 5.1B.
5.1B, okay.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez.
Yes,
Motion passes 3-0.
thank you.
Ah, that's what I did.
And is, yeah, never mind. Now it's 5.2. Okay, item 5.2, a resolution for each storm drain maintenance district ordering the levy and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2018-19. The districts are named as following. Item 52A, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District, number 2006-01. 52B, Riverbank Storm Drain Maintenance District, number 05-01, Sterling Ridge.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, we recommend that the council consider amending or approving the fiscal year 18-19 engineers reports and order the levy and collection of annual assessments for the 2 storm drain districts. So 2 storm drain districts were formed pursuant to the provisions of the Benefit Assessment Act of 1982. Annual assessments cover maintenance and operations of the storm drain facilities and improvements within the district. District benefits are reviewed annually. So the 2 storm drain district benefit assessments will remain the same within the district. There'll be no increases to the residents. So the annual assessments for 17-18 and 18-19, as you can see, are the same for Sterling Ridge Storm Drain District, as well as Heartland Storm Drain Maintenance District. So tonight, we're recommending that the City Council approve the fiscal year 18-19 engineers reports and declare its intention to levy and collect annual assessments within the 2 storm drain districts.
Any comments from the council before I put it out for a public hearing? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I open it for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I close public hearing and bring it back to the council for consideration.
I make a motion that we approve item 5.2.
I second that motion.
A motion to approve 5.2 in a second.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5.3, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2018-19 preliminary operating budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Assistant City Manager and Finance Director, Maricela Garcia, will step you through we're calling our placeholder budget, but she's also got some information about what you're likely to see in the final.
So good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Tonight we do have for you what's considered a preliminary operating budget. This will allow us to begin expending funds as of July 1st, and it is a state requirement to have this adopted before June 30th. Just to give you a brief overview, I will go over several of our major funds, just in general, but within your packets, you do have all of the detail for each of the different departments, their requests, so that if you have any specific questions, we'll be able to answer them at this time. So first off, our general fund, for members of the public, our general fund is where revenues go that are considered discretionary. They're considered discretionary because there is no state law or any legal requirement that we keep those in a separate fund. And the City Council does have the discretion of allocating those funds towards any purpose they deem correct. So an overview of where we will see our general fund at this point in time, and as a reminder, it is preliminary at this moment. We are projected to begin our fiscal year with an 18% reserve, which is healthy, and well over and above the 10% required minimum that the City Council has established. We're looking at approximately $9.4 million in revenue coming into the city's general fund, with projected expenditures of 9.5, almost 9.6. So our reserve as of June 30th, 2019 is expected to be 16%. Our required 10% reserve is $942,000, of which we will be well above, almost close to $600,000. But we do continue to have a structural deficit. What that means is that our expenditures are outpacing our revenues at the moment. Our general fund revenues, we are anticipating a 1.1% increase, which is about $100,000 to our general revenue fund. Some of our major general revenue sources include sales tax, which is about 33% of the revenues we receive, and that's anticipated to increase by 3.3%. Our property tax, current secured, is estimated to increase by about 1.4%. Our property tax in lieu of VLF is also anticipated to increase by 1.5%. And our transferring of management fee, which isn't necessarily a revenue, but a reimbursement of fees that are charged to other funds for work that's performed by city staff, is anticipated to increase by 3.7%. Overall, our general fund expenditures are anticipated to increase by 0.7%, and the expenses that are reflected here do include the items that have been negotiated with the miscellaneous bargaining unit. And just to give you a brief overview of the breakdown of our expenditure types and what makeup they are of our budget, our salary and personnel expenses make up 33% of the budget, with our law enforcement being an additional 40%, so almost 70% of the budget is staffing related. Our operating expenses are 20% of our general fund budget, with some fund subsidies and legal settlements making up the balance of that. Some major expenditure changes that we're anticipating in our general fund. We've got some staffing costs in our finance department. We did add a new position, and we did have a position that was vacant for a significant number of months. This current fiscal year, we have filled all of those positions, and so next fiscal year we'll see an increase based on those salary savings that we'll no longer be experiencing. Special legal counsel, we're anticipating a decrease. We've been very prudent in our legal spending this year, and we hope to continue that next fiscal year. Our law enforcement contract, and this is just the general fund portion only, is anticipated to increase by 3%. We have the sheriff's office has factored in their negotiated cost of living adjustments to our contract, and so that net impact to the city was 3%. CalPERS, which is our public employee retirement system, is anticipated to increase by 36%. So we have taken into consideration the increase not only in the normal costs, which would be sort of our day-to-day costs for our employee, but also in what's called the unfunded accrued liability. So basically, this is what we owe for all of those retired employees and for those employees who have worked for the city who will be retiring soon. Unfortunately, because CalPERS has not been able to make any significant changes to their investment strategy, they have not earned the return that they anticipated. And so the cities will need to pick up that difference in order to make sure that when our employees retire, they receive the full amount of retirement that they're entitled to. Our health insurance is anticipated to increase, and that is because of the negotiated item with the miscellaneous bargaining group. The employees will all be contributing towards their health insurance, but one of the most significant changes that we're seeing from the current fiscal year to next year is the fact that we did make a change in our health insurance in terms of the employees picking up their out-of-pocket costs, and so that provided some significant savings to the general fund. Going to decrease, I'm sorry, yes, by 21% for the general fund. Some outstanding items that we should take into consideration as we're preparing our final budget and as we continue to have discussions with the departments in finalizing their budgets. First of all is the Quill decision, and that's regarding online sales tax and the taxation of any purchases made online. And with revenues going to the place of delivery rather than either not being taxed or going to a point of sale that's been established at a different location, like a distribution center. That will have a positive impact to our budget. We currently are working with our sales tax auditors in order to come up with some sort of estimate regarding what that impact may be to our general fund. We also have here future impacts of the state budget on our general fund revenues. Unfunded state mandates, which include stormwater, our zoning code update, funding for the 7th Street storm line repairs, which has been a project that's been on our radar for several fiscal years now, but has yet to be addressed. A non-motorized transportation plan, our parks and recreation master plan, although the funds are being covered through our system development fees, they're just not coming in a sufficient amount to be able to do the project right away. We also have our East Side Master Plan, minimum wage increases in future years, which will affect our full-time wages, labor contract negotiations which continue with our Riverbank miscellaneous, our Mid-Management Employee Association, increases in population which are requiring new services, and also our CalPERS employer cost increase due to the changes in the discount rate and the unfunded accrued liability. So just to touch on the CalPERS issue, one more time, changes have been made by CalPERS to the discount rate. So they reduced their discount rate from 7.5, and it will go down to 7% over. It has gone down over the past year and will continue for the next two. This will continue to cause increases in our contribution costs. The projections have been provided to the cities, which reflect a minimum and a maximum amount that we have the potential of paying. So for the next 6 years, we could look at a potential minimum of $717,000 additional in CalPERS retirement costs, with a maximum of $1.2 million. So moving on to our special revenue funds. Our special revenue funds are those that are legally restricted to be spent on specific areas or projects, and those include things like our gas tax, our workers' comp liability, and our public benefit fund, which was just established by the City Council at the last meeting. I will touch on that particular fund because it is new to the city and to our residents. And so the Public Benefit Fund accounts for all of our cannabis-related revenues, and it includes our public benefit fee, any non-performance penalties, interest and fines, and administrative cultivation permit fees. The funds can be appropriated towards any of the following prioritized expense types, such as public safety, code enforcement, service enhancements, and offsets to any city department. So for the upcoming fiscal year, we're anticipating $122,000 in revenue, and that's extremely conservative. We have had 3 months worth of activity at one of our dispensaries at the time, and it has varied from month to month, so it's a little bit difficult to be able to project forward how much in reality the minimum will be per month. So the public safety expense that we have included for your consideration tonight is the addition of 1 deputy at $127,000 and any vehicle fees associated with that, because we will need to purchase a vehicle for their use. So a total of $162,000 is being appropriated from this fund. And so that includes revenues that we have collected this fiscal year and the anticipated revenues from next fiscal year. I would recommend that during the final budget, once additional revenues are received and once we can fine-tune revenues that we anticipate for the next fiscal year, that the City Council could consider some of the other areas that they have prioritized for expenditures. Overall, our special revenue funds will have a structural deficit of only $20,000, which is fairly good. And just a reminder that several of these funds are designed to operate at a structural deficit due to the nature of the revenues that we receive. Most of them are one-time revenues, and so revenues may come in one fiscal year and expended the next fiscal year, and there's no revenues coming in to replenish them. Our system development fee funds are legally restricted to be spent on projects that are identified within our approved system development fee program, or Nexus fee study as it is also known. It is revenue that's paid by new development for both residential and commercial, and it includes items such as storm drain, police and general government, streets and public works. And so some of the major projects that we are recommending to be funded this upcoming fiscal year from our Bridges and Roads and Streets and Public Works funds, we're looking at funding the construction of the traffic signal at Clarabelle and Roselle, looking at making railroad improvements at First Street and Patterson, and at the Patterson near Terminal intersection. Also traffic signals at Patterson and Roselle and Morel traffic signal. From the police and general government, we're looking at allocating funds towards the replacement vehicle for animal control, and also to perform a spatial analysis for City Hall. So overall, Our system development fees we're anticipating approximately $314,000 coming in new revenues, and that is from new construction, particularly from Diamond Bar West, with estimated expenditures of a little bit over $1 million. These in particular are meant to operate at a structural deficit. You're slowly collecting the funds until you've collected enough to perform a project, unless it's advanced by the city council over any other project that we've been collecting funds on. And so generally, you'll see the collection of funds in one fiscal year and the expenditure of it probably 5 or 6 years later. Our housing funds account for all of our current and outstanding housing loans, and we provide loans to our residents for our first-time home buyer and housing rehabilitation programs. And so typically we'll see the expenditure of revenues one fiscal year. The loans that we provide are 30-year loans, and so for residents who stay in their homes for 30 years, then we recoup the funds after that 30-year period has lapsed. Currently, with the way the market has been, we've had a lot of residents who have actually taken advantage of that market and sold their homes. So we are seeing where we're recouping revenues or loan amounts more quickly than we would have anticipated, but then that allows us to continue funding new loans. Overall, we're looking at a ending reserve of $131,000. Several of these funds you're required to spend 100% of what you receive because they want to see that you continue to have activity within your programs, particularly with CDBG. In order to take advantage of new grants, you must have expended any revenues that you have currently at the city. Our sewer enterprise funds, these are all of our legally restricted sewer funds, and they are funded through the revenues that are paid by all of our customers. So we do have an operating fund, a debt service fund, a capital improvement fund, and its own system development fee fund. Some of the major projects we're recommending for this upcoming fiscal year is to continue the cross-connection reduction and sewer line replacements at various locations throughout the city. And so all of these will be funded on the new rates that were established back in 2015 by the City Council. Our sewer debt service payments remain stable at $784, and that includes our sewer SRF loans, which we have 2 more fiscal years worth of payment on those before they will mature. Our Schneider Electric project, and an internal loan that was made from our system development fee fund to our sewer fund in order to make necessary improvements that were identified in the sanitary sewer management plan. Overall, our sewer fund is actually anticipated to end with a structural surplus based on the revenues that have been coming in. We do anticipate another increase for all of our residents on July 1st, so we have factored in that additional revenue. And to highlight our sewer operating fund, a couple of fiscal years prior to the city's adoption of these new rates, our sewer operating fund was actually operating at a structural deficit, almost in this exact same amount that you see is now our structural surplus. So we have definitely come a long way with regards to the revenues we're collecting. And these revenues, although we'll see a high structural surplus, we continue to build our reserve in order to fund projects that are identified in the rate study. Our water enterprise funds, so those include our water operating fund, our capital improvement fund, our system development fee fund, and we're anticipating no major projects in this fund, particularly because at the moment we are not collecting the consumption fee for our water usage. That consumption fee is what was supposed to fund a number of projects that were listed within our rate study. So we're able to collect enough in order to continue with our day-to-day operations, but unfortunately, we don't have the ability to perform several of the projects that were identified due to the fact that we're not collecting that consumption fee. So we are operating at a structural deficit overall within our water enterprise funds. And as I mentioned, that's due to not collecting the consumption rate that's provided for our projects. And so overall, in total, for all of our funds throughout the city, we are looking at an ending reserve of $12.8 million with a structural deficit of 1.8. And as I mentioned, a number of the funds are designed to operate at a structural deficit. This is just a brief graph, and I apologize, the graph doesn't have my descriptions on it, but what it does show is just expenditures by type, and it would reflect salaries and benefits in our sheriff's contract as the biggest portion of that pie. So outstanding appropriations that we'd like for you to take into consideration tonight. These will be included in the preliminary budget based on your recommendations. The first is the installation of solar streetlights at 5 locations that are in front of Galaxy Theater. That would be an approximate cost of $20,000. The second is a request that we received in order to fund the site manager cost for our senior lunch program. That would be a cost of $2,500 for that site manager between July and December of the current fiscal year. And then the third is the community gym roof replacement. The community gym is in dire need of replacing the roof. We are doing this in cooperation with the Riverbank Unified School District, and so they will be obtaining the bids and managing that contract, but we will be providing reimbursement for half of that cost. Some outstanding appropriations requests that you may see for the final budget is additional staffing needs that we may have, particularly when it comes to GIS and community development, whether it's a specialist or an assistant planner. We're considering some position reclassifications or salary range adjustments, safety and privacy improvements at City Hall South, the repairs to our Cardozo tennis courts, some heavy-duty equipment purchases, and some improvements at our wastewater treatment plant, and software purchase and updates. And so our recommendation for tonight is that the City Council consider a resolution which approves the preliminary fiscal year 2018-19 operating budget, including all proposed expenditures and any expenditures that the City Council may would like to proceed with at this time.
Public hearing, is there any questions for Maricela?
Mayor, one of the things that got brought up to me by a couple community members in the last week was whether or not there's going to be budget committee meetings. Is that what we call that board?
Budget Advisory.
Budget Advisory
Yes.
Committee. And the answer to that is yes. We wanted to get through the components that we were a little uncertain about before we brought forward something detailed for them.
And they're going to present their recommendations?
Correct.
Okay. This is a public hearing. I open comments for the public. Seeing no public comment, I close public hearing. Bring it back to the council for a recommendation on a preliminary operating budget, fiscal year 2018-19.
I make a motion, we approve item 5.3.
I second it.
A motion to approve and a lot of seconds on item 5.3.
Council members Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz. Yes. Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
LRA item 5.4, resolution of the Local Redevelopment Board of the City of Riverbank adopting the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2018-19.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa will be giving the report this evening, which may look a little like the report you got last meeting.
Good evening, Chair and Authority members. I bring you the Local Redevelopment Authority's fiscal year 2018-19 preliminary budget for adoption consideration. Some budget assumptions this year. The Army will continue to pay a portion of the site operations and maintenance until transfer. ESCA number 2 work completed by this fiscal year end, we're hoping. The faucet completed this fiscal year end. I know that you all are anticipating that as well. And the OEA to provide funding to the agency through December 2018. Some budget impacts, the loss of OEA funding in January of 2019. They did say this was our last time, so I'm banking on that this time. Master developer agreement executed, and the loss of O&M once the transfer is complete. A reminder of the LRA budget funds. Fund 197 is our leasehold budget. Fund 198 is our grants for the Office of Economic Adjustment and the Community Development Block Grant. Fund 199 is our ESCA grant for the Environmental Services Cooperative Agreement that is taking care of all the remediation out at the site. And as a reminder, all the revenue that is generated on the site must be reinvested into the site, and funds are non-discretionary. Our budget overview for this fiscal year, we begin with a 0 reserve due to the roofing and siding capital improvement project that is 99% complete. Our estimated revenues this year are about $10 million. Estimated expenditures, $9.9 million, with an ending reserve of $72,000. Again, this is preliminary, and that could change with a lot of moving parts taking place at the moment. Our site revenue projections are up 2%. That's due to the escalators increasing on the site for current leaseholders, as well as new tenants coming to the site. Site expenditure overview, we have a difference of 3%. We didn't include any tenant improvements this fiscal year in this budget due to the master developer agreement that may take place in this fiscal year. Grant revenue overview, it's about stagnant, the same as last year. Our grant expenditure overview, I said that wrong, sorry. The revenue was stagnant, it's about the same as last year. Our expenditures are down a little bit, about 5%. ESCA 2 revenue is down quite a bit. That's due to us getting the funds for the last fiscal year and ramping up the project, and this is the balance of funds that's available to draw down. Expenditure overview, the same thing. We're about 80% complete, and we do have what is left. Remediation of the contaminated concrete, the soil excavation, stormwater retention basins cleaning and excavation, the final reports, and then a small portion of the LRA staff and administrative costs come from that. So tonight it's my recommendation that the LRA board adopt a resolution approving this fiscal year 2018-19 preliminary LRA budget.
I do have a couple of questions. Is budget related tying into our transfer of property? You had testing of concrete and soils. How far along are we on the new? And if that doesn't change, that requirement remains, is that feasible to have it transferred within a year?
You're talking about the additional concrete testing? Okay, because that's not part of the characterization that was done and completed. This is for after the remediation of the concrete. Our US EPA is asking for additional testing to make sure that it's clean, and she's expanded that scope. I think that's something that we need to take back to the Army because it wasn't factored in when we did that budget a few years ago with the original scope of work. So we probably might need a modification of the ESCA to complete that.
It doesn't alleviate the Army's responsibility to pay for it.
It does not.
No, it does not, but if we could have that withdrawn, that might move it along a lot faster, and some of your budget concerns may go away.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions before I open for public comment? This is a public hearing. I'm opening for public comment on the LRA preliminary budget for fiscal year 2018-19. Seeing no public comment, I close public comment for the LRA preliminary budget, bring it back to the council for a recommendation and or consideration.
I make a motion that we accept this preliminary budget.
I second.
Boy, that was tough. We have a motion to approve and a second for the preliminary budget for the LRA 2018-19.
Authority members Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
New business, 6.1, consideration of a resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between the City of Riverbank and the Riverbank Miscellaneous Employees Bargaining Unit.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Assistant City Manager, who was involved in negotiations for nearly 4 months, will give you the update and presentation on this item.
So good evening, Mayor and City Councils. Tonight, I'm pleased to present to you the Memorandum of Understanding between the city and the Miscellaneous Bargaining Unit. I'm just going to briefly go over some of the key terms of the agreement. First of all, the agreement will run from July 6, 2018 through June 30th, 2022, so it will be 4 fiscal years. We have incorporated a cost of living adjustment during each of these fiscal years, with 3% increases during the first 3 and a final 2% increase in the last year. Medical insurance benefits. The city will continue to provide medical insurance to the employees, but the employees will begin to contribute towards the premium amount of their insurance. So they will contribute 5% monthly for the first fiscal year. It will go up to 10% the second fiscal year and 15% the third fiscal year. With this particular group, they have asked that we take that 5% total for their entire group and average the amount out for the employee so that each employee is paying the exact same amount. So they'll begin paying $62 a month for this first fiscal year. Union orientation, this is an item that was added due to the passage of AB 119, where the city will provide the union with the roster of current bargaining unit members during the first 60 days of the fiscal year. Callback rest period, we have established a minimum 5-hour rest period for employees who are called back to work after leaving their place of employment and completing their city work within 5 years of the start of their normal shift. Compensatory time. Currently, employees are allowed to cash out up to 40 hours of compensatory time. And so we've established a minimum. Before, they had to cash out at least 40 hours. We've dropped that minimum down to 10 hours, which helps to alleviate the city's ongoing liabilities as we're able to cash those out at their current rate of pay rather than at a future rate of pay. Certification pay, we've added an additional 2.5% incentive pay for employees who receive certificates that are relevant but that are not required to their current position. So that does include most water and wastewater certifications, and we've also, they have asked for crane certification and parks equipment inspection certifications. Agency shop agreement, this just added some clarifying language regarding new state law. Longevity pay, we have added a third tier at 20 years of service for an additional 2.5% compensation. So employees who reach that third tier will receive an additional 7.5% total in longevity pay. PERS retirement, we have added language which creates the PERS Advisory Committee, which will discuss a potential way to address the city's ongoing liability with contributions from the different employee groups. The unions will be provided a seat at the committee, and so we just wanted to memorialize that within our agreements. We've also included a reopener clause where the city will have the ability to reopen if there's any economic difficulties or if the city desires to change its health insurance and seeks to move to a defined contribution rather than a percentage-based amount for premiums. Financial impact, the net savings that we will have from the contribution we'll receive from the employees will be approximately $18,000. The cost of living adjustment for year one will be $42,000. So the net impact to the city will be $24,000 for this agreement for year one. And so tonight, we are recommending the adoption of a resolution to memorialize this memorandum of understanding between the city and the Riverbank Miscellaneous Bargaining Unit. And I'm available for any questions.
First, I want to thank you for your efforts. You put in a lot of time bringing us and the miscellaneous group together. I want to commend the employees for their open-mindedness on what we're trying to accomplish and their participation in it. And I'm going to thank the staff for all of their patience with us.
I have a comment, not a question. I just want to say that I like the direction that we're going forward with the CalPERS committee, both the bargaining unit and, and the city. I think it's very key and very important that we move together with what we're expecting will happen in the future. So I just like that we have that as an agreement and a step forward together.
Anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
This is a public meeting. Anyone from the public wishing to discuss the bargaining unit agreement? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 6.1.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second for the memorandum of understanding between the City of Riverbank and the Riverbank Miscellaneous Employees Bargaining Unit.
Council members Fossey,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.2, proposal, request by Riverbank Historical Society for a co-sponsored time capsule recovery event.
And I think we have two members that are going to recuse themselves, so I'll wait for my report for you guys to. So, thank you very much, Mayor. So I'm going to toss this to Mr. Holmer here in a moment, who was the one that approached the city on behalf of the Historical Society with this concept. But I do think it's kind of interesting just to take a moment to think about the fact that it was in 1968 that community center was built. And Rich brought some really interesting literature that's in your packet about what it cost at that time, which was about $400,000, which included the land. And at the time, you can imagine 50 years ago that being a significant amount of money for a really small little community. And so it was really interesting when Rich came to see me because it was right after the council had approved moving forward with the renovation of the community center here this fall, which coincidentally is almost exactly 50 years after it was originally built. Essentially what we'd like to do, or what the Riverbank Historical Society would like to partner with the city in, is to have some sort of event built around a time capsule that's in our park currently and has been there for 50 years, and maybe an associated dinner. And so I'm going to give it to Mr. Holmer, and he can kind of explain a little bit about his concept and proposal.
Thank you, John. Rich Homer, Riverbank, California. Also, I'd like to introduce Kristen Olson, our Historical Society president. She's here with me tonight. And she's letting me do the talking. I've always been under the impression that a successful city is one that celebrates itself. And we've got some big celebrations coming up. In 2022, it'll be the centennial for the city of Riverbank. In 2021, it'll be the centennial for the construction of the Carnegie Library, which is on the National Registry of Historic Places. And we want to do something big there. I'd hope we've raised the funds to construct the expansion by that time. Also, not only is this 50 years time capsule August 17th, 1968, but the first graduating class of Riverbank High School was in 1968. The doors opened in 67, but the students didn't graduate till 1968. So there's a lot of things happening, and it's an exciting time, I think, in Riverbank. To me, the 68 dedication was one of the momentous events that has happened in Riverbank. It was a small town then, probably 4,000 or 5,000. And through city officials, through organizations, community clubs, civic groups, everyone, Chamber of Commerce, they got together and came up with $400,000 to construct the center. If you put that in today's dollars, you're looking at about $3.5 million. Big difference. They had to cut out a water feature, was in the front, so I guess we saved that for the Plaza del Rio across the street. I believe, and like Sean said, the center's undergoing a renovation. We're looking to construct an expansion, and this could be a kickoff in many ways for both of those events, and I think it deserves special recognition. I'm really anxious. Back in 2014, the mayor who was mayor when this was done in 1968 was Leo Silva, which Silva Park's named after. And Leo said to me, and he was in his last few days, he was months or so, he said, "Rich, go over and see when the time capsule is going to be dug up or excavated. I want to be there." And I said, "Okay, Leo." And I went over and I looked at the plaque and it said 2018. So I came back to him, I said, "Leo, you've got to live 4 more years." And unfortunately, he didn't make it. But there are people that did. And to me, those should be recognized. We have, Alan Trawick was on the council at that time. And there are other people that were very important in that, and to me, we need to recognize those folks. If you've read my letter, I sort of outline some ideas, and that's all they are right now. This could be scaled up, it could be scaled down, but I think it's an opportunity to get all segments of Riverbank's life, whether they be merchants, the Chamber of Commerce, which now is, I guess, started up again, city folks, the new people to the community, the old people to the community. Get them together, have a dinner, have a celebration, open the time capsule, see what's in there. I don't know. Very few people, I think, alive today know what's in that time capsule. So to me, it's an exciting time. Historical Society can't do it on its own. We have about 60 members, and we have about 8 to 10 really active members. We need the city's assistance on this, and of course, like excavating it, we don't have people who can dig it up. You've got Public Works. But we could provide a lot of information. I would like to see, after this is all over, that whatever's in the Times capsule go on display for a while at the Riverbank Museum, and eventually probably go over to the expanded museum. So what I guess I'm asking for tonight is you to approve city staff working with the Historical Society to make a really exciting event happen. We don't have much time. That's the truth. Today is June 26th. It's less than 6 months till Christmas. I hate to bring that up. But this could be, I think, even in a short period of time, I think we could put this together if we get a couple to 3 city staff members and a couple of 3 Historical Society members. I've already said that I will get all the wine and beer at no cost, so I've made that commitment. And we already have the champagne for a champagne toast sometime during the day or evening. So I would like you to approve this. I've talked with Sean a couple times, and I think we both agree this is something that should be happening in Riverbank and is going to be happening in Riverbank in the next 4 years. And I think this would be a good kickoff for that, too. Any questions?
No.
And Mayor, we're going to, one thing Rich didn't mention, but we've talked about for the dinner portion of the event, if council wants to move forward with that, we'd like it to be nice, something that's memorable, but also affordable for folks to be able to buy a ticket to come. It's open to the public, obviously, and so we want to make sure that it's nice, but also affordable so people can attend.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I just had one quick comment before we go forward. Leo Silva was my uncle, and the community center was very near and dear to his heart always. It was a huge accomplishment for him, and he was very proud that it was built in his lifetime and saw the use of it. And so I think this is fabulous, and I really look forward to something like this. And I think this should be something that our city celebrates, and we can do more of this. It's a pretty cool thing. So. With that said, I would like to make a motion that we accept and approve this event.
I second.
Motion to approve item 6.2, and a second.
Council members Fosse,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Moving on, item 6.3, consideration of a resolution extending a moratorium for 6 months. Oh, I gotta wait. We want to get more people here. Item 6.3, consideration of a resolution extending a moratorium for 6 months on the processing and issuance of additional permits for cannabis dispensaries within the city of Riverbank.
Thank you, Mayor. As you, council may recall, on January 23rd, council approved a temporary 6-month moratorium on dispensary applications in order to evaluate our experiences with the first 2 that had been approved. Only one of those is open at this time. The other, I think, just got their building permit last week, I believe. So Donna's going to kind of step through some analysis that she did. She's kept an eye on the one dispensary that we have open, has done a little analysis in terms of what we have seen so far.
Good evening, council members. So a little bit of background for the public. 2 cannabis dispensaries have been approved through the public hearing process. 1 dispensary is on hold, and 1 dispensary withdrew their application, and we have not accepted any other applications since the moratorium began. The community concerns in the commercial districts have been circulation impacts, parking impacts, and impacts to families during public events. So about the moratorium, 5 months have passed. Staff has assessed the community impacts of Flavors, the first dispensary to open. Riverbank Wellness has yet to open but has received its building permits. So that my method of assessment with Flavors was I conducted site visits at various times on various days, several days per week. I've also met or discussed with the chief of police some of the impacts, and I've done some community outreach. As I mentioned before, wellness has yet to open. So I just, among all the pictures that I took, I just selected 1 per month to show the parking. I always wait until there are no clients in the parking lot and you cannot see the license plates. So that was March. Here's a random one from April. Here we have May. The most recent was in June, and this was evening, and there were still several parking lots or parking spaces available. In talking to Chief, we have noticed a little bit of a downslope in the crime in the area within 1,500 feet of Flavors. There had been 140-something calls for service before they opened up, and then in the 80-some days since they have opened, that has decreased into the 90s. They only had 3 calls for service during that time that they've been open. One was an abandoned or a suspicious vehicle at the AutoZone that turned out to be Flavor's employee vehicle. There was a car broken into for one of the vendors, and there was a false alarm with a burglar alarm. In comparison, there were 8 calls to O'Brien's Market. So I just found that interesting.
I do not have any,
Associate with them.
that's my brother's business.
Yes.
That's my brother's business.
So the choice before you tonight is to approve the resolution extending the moratorium an additional 6 months for us to continue to follow Flavors and their circulation impacts, and then to start assessing Riverbank Wellness as they open up, or to allow the moratorium to expire on July 23rd next month. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Circulation issues.
Yes.
Has there been any, I've noticed that the majority, if not the majority, almost all of them, get on into the parking lot from Patterson Road and then exit onto Patterson Road. Has it impacted McDonald's?
From what I personally saw, there has not been an impact. You are correct. Most of the traffic has come into the 2 driveway areas on one side of AutoZone and then in front of Flavors. I personally have been going around to Oakdale Road to come in that, and I've never experienced any traffic problems there.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
I live in the neighborhood, and I'm around there at different times of the day, and the only times I've seen any real problems with traffic has been usually at lunchtime or in the evening at dinner time, and it's been McDonald's drive-through. And that's because it gets overloaded, but I haven't seen anything in the times that I've been by there. And I walk by it sometimes at different times of the day. I drive by it many times a day, and I'm always looking at it because I told the public that I would keep my eye on it. And I have to agree with you. I haven't seen any real problems per se with traffic that you could blame onto the Flavors dispensary at this time.
To add to that, there has only been one time where I've been on Patterson Road wanting to turn in that 2 Flavors in that driveway between Flavors and Cruisers. And there was 2 cars stopped there only because somebody was backing out of a parking spot in Flavors, and the vehicles had to wait for them to get out of the way. Otherwise, I have not encountered any backed up traffic at any of the entrances.
Do we know when the second dispensary will open? Is it in August?
I'm not quite sure because they just pulled their building permits and they have a lot to do with that older building. But staff is working closely with them and, trying to get them moving and opened up as soon as they can.
Okay, I think we'll wait for the public, but I believe if we wait until we have a complete assessment before we lift the moratorium, I think that might be best for gathering the information, making sure that there isn't any issues, because there has been none. But I'm sure that there'll be others that, like even dry cities are now going forward with it. Okay, any other comments, questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just have a comment. I too feel the same way. I think we have 2 that we've gone through this process with. I think I want to see the second one open up and how things go with the opening of the second one before we make any changes. That's just what I would like to see. So far, so good, and I'm encouraged that that will be the same with the second one too. But I'd like to kind of go with the status quo myself with this particular item tonight.
Okay.
I am also in agreement with extending the moratorium. I just think we need to wait till see what happens with the second one and go forward. So I would like to see it extended.
Okay. All right.
I just want to comment that I, like Cal, have driven around the area. When I'm over in the area, I do go and I do a circle around the building just to see what's going on and make sure that the traffic is okay and there's no parking issues and everything. And I've been very pleased to see that there's been no issues. But I do agree, the moratorium for another 6 months.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
Not all at once, so.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm from Riverbank, Danielle Gravel, and I am the co-owner of Riverbank Cannabis Collective, formerly Riverbank Wellness, and we are very excited. We just got our building permits. We are under construction, and we're hoping to be open by the end of August or at the latest early September. We are excited to serve the community and kind of give a more educational medical service for a dispensary experience here. We're kind of excited at how Flavors has successfully delivered, a professional, welcoming atmosphere. I've been in there a couple times, and I am in contact with their owners, and it's been a really enlightening experience to see what they're going through. And in this town, when it's a brand new industry, it's a little intimidating, but we're excited, and we're hopeful to get open as soon as possible.
Thank you.
I also agree with extending the moratorium, but I have another question about this when you bring it back in 6 months. When you passed the marijuana ordinance, it was supposed to be, I thought it was supposed to be, we understood it for all the marijuana dispensaries in the whole city, but it's not. The problem goes back to, which we've discussed before, with the lack of money that the general plan, Pacific plan, code and the municipal code have never brought into compliance. The general plan, Pacific plan are not in compliance with each other. So whenever there's issues or questions about this, well, the general plan says they can do that, but the Pacific plan says no, they can do this. And I really think it's going to cause problems because downtown Pacific plan seems to be more lax than the general plan does. And then you have this marijuana ordinance that doesn't apply to everybody. I was hoping when you come back with this that you can clarify all this and what goes and what doesn't go instead of one can do this and one can do that. For instance, your signage. You really need to look at that.
Any other further comment?
Yeah, I'm Haskell Moore from Riverbank. Maybe I see different things out here on Patterson Road at the cannabis shop is open than the rest of you do. It looked like Bumper Car City out there one day when I was over at AutoZone getting a part. And I stopped into Cruisers one day and to get a soda, and I was talking to a kid there working there. It's the thing. I said, how come nobody's in here? Nobody's at the gas pump, and there's cars all over the place. He goes, pointing to the cannabis shop. And he said, drive around back. Parked on their property, the back of Cruisers, I counted 15 cars. He said, those cars you see in the back are over there, and they're employees. They're not customers. They're there every day, the same cars. What are they doing there? It takes that many employees to run that place unless they're cutting and, trimming and getting it ready for sale. I thought that was supposed to just be a place where you sold it. Was it take 15 people to run that shop? And I noticed that the police sit in that parking lot that a lot of people used to hang out and smoke dope and everything that Scott was talking about, and a few others around here. I don't go down there too much. I noticed that there's 2 patrol cars sitting back in there during the day a lot. And I noticed a lot of this just last week because I couldn't get the parts I needed at Cragen. I had to go to AutoZone 3 times. I made sure I didn't park facing the highway. Nobody think I'm at the cannabis shop. So I got a reputation to protect there. So, and this one here on 3rd Street. How can you extend something 6 months, and how can you only have 2 things you can do here, And how can you do either one of them when they're both supposed to have been open for a considerable amount of time to make sure there wasn't no problems with they don't cause any problems in the community? These guys haven't even opened. So how can you do number A or B? How can you decide on either one of those tonight when they haven't proved what they can or can't do? And they are parking a lot of AutoZone out there, the traffic is. You guys just go at their own time of day, I guess. So I don't see how you can make a decision to do either one of these, A or B. I think he failed, just like he told us we failed on signatures, which we're not done with that. But they haven't proved themselves in 6 months. They're not open. So they shouldn't be allowed to open. And that one shouldn't stay open. They didn't do what you said you're going to see to it that they did in 6 months. You failed. So go from here.
Any further comment?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ramon Bermudez from Roselle Avenue. I'm going on the 24th year in Riverbank, and I just wanted to ask you to approve the resolution 218XXX, whatever that means, attachment 1, to extend the moratorium on cannabis dispensaries for 6 months. And adding to that, whether you agree in agreement or not, that people goes and drives under the influence of marijuana, is that how a patrolman had gotten killed by a girl driver who I believe was even under 21 years old. How did she get that? I don't know, but it's worth it to lose one of our best in California in order to get the money. There's another one in Fremont area between Fremont and Hayward somewhere that killed 3 people, 2 of them little girls from Manteca. And then again, I come back to you. Do you think it's enough for that? On a survey that they have done of the states that are accepting, so many of them are starting with approving medical marijuana, which is good, great. Some of the VA are with some studies, and they don't want the PTSD to be included depending on the person. And they're on the negative part that is not all that rosy from the VA. They still don't want to accept it for the doctors at VA to recommend the marijuana for different illnesses. I read there is 10% on all the states that are allowing so-called recreational marijuana with the medical marijuana. It's only 10% that go to the so-called dispensaries for medical marijuana. So the other 90% reminds me of Pablo Escobedo from Colombia. He put few millions dollars from his misdoings of contraband of both weapons and drugs, including marijuana, and put it on the team for football, soccer. And all the people from Colombia, they're all happy about it. But there we go again, blood money, because there was a thing against him and the things that he did against the politicians at the time that he sent them to be killed, including military and so on. And that's how it comes out to be here. In the state of Colorado, that I believe must have been the ones that began with this, they should have stopped right there at medical marijuana. It was going everything well. In Ceres, there is a business. In Modesto, there is a business, I think, of the same partners that I've been reading the newspaper, the letters to the editor. The ones that are writing to them to please don't close it because there is a possibility that they close in July. That to please don't close it because they've been very good on elderly as well as young people who are being treated. Medical marijuana, that's wonderful. I have never been against it. Ever since I was in Vietnam, I have never been against marijuana to cure your anxiety, to you forget about things like, how was I talking about? Type of thing, you know. Wait until you get Alzheimer's, wait until you get a little bit older on the recreational part, so you can forget things natural without having to get high on marijuana, you know. If it's going to be like that, don't go for it. You know, I think that the dispensary that is open right now on Patterson Road is true about the gentleman who was just talking about it. You're going to think that because I worked there when it was Chevron originally, when I started with Mr. Dimitrios. And it's true, there were people at that time getting high and passing things that you could see in the camera, but nothing I can do about it. And a couple of times with different people, they came over to see if I could get a change for 100. And of course, we don't have any change after 10 p.m.
Thank you,
But
sir. Your
in
time
this,
is up.
yes, but in this part, I want to tell you, it's not bringing anything good. If you think more people must die for you to see the light, that for marijuana purposes of recreation, what you call it, is to get high anytime they want to. They have the liberty of doing it. They are not being kept an eye on it.
Any
Thank
other
you very
further
much.
public comment? Seeing no further public comment, bring it back for the consideration of the council.
I make a motion that we accept item 6.3.
I'll second it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Oh, I'm sorry. That we continue with the moratorium for 6 more months, which I think is item one, which is one of 6.3. It's on 2 pages. Do you need that a little more clear?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I second.
We have a motion to approve item 6.3 to extend the moratorium on cannabis dispensaries for 6 months from,
July 23rd.
is it the moratorium date or from today? From today?
Yeah, it's from,
From today?
is that how it's written, Donna, in the resolution?
I don't have it pulled up here.
It was actually written from July 23rd to December 23rd.
So it'll be, yeah, upon expiration of the current, a new 6-month one will
Okay.
begin, so
That
it'll
will
expire.
expire on December 23rd.
Council members Foster,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continue on with comments, staff 7.1.
Thanks, Mayor. I have 2 or 3 tonight. While Public Works Director Michael Riddell makes his way up here, I will give some of you who were not in the room, we now have an event coming up on August 17th at the Community Center. It is the 50-year time capsule event. We're going to do an unveiling of the time capsule and then an associated dinner. So please mark your calendars. That is a Friday, and we wanted to see if we can get as many people as possible to attend because we think it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're also hoping to get a band too. So, and Michael has an update for you on our local water basin.
Evening, Mayor, City Council, Michael Riddell, Public Works Director, City of Riverbank. I just handed you a letter that we actually just posted out through our group, which is the Stanislaus and Tuolumne Rivers Groundwater Basin Association, which is a mouthful. This is concerning the Groundwater Sustainability Act and for us to be the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And as you can see, this is the notification for our plan. So this is just an update. It also gives a little bit of information there on our monthly meetings, and if you would like to attend, the public has been invited, and we also have a website that anybody can go ahead and take a look at, and we'll kind of give you the information. More than anything, this puts us way out front I think we're probably going to be one of the first groundwater sustainability agencies that's going to have everything ready to go, because we've already did this. There is going to be a cost associated with this, and it's looking like our share is probably going to be somewhere around $56,000. The total cost for this plan is going to be about $1.5 million, but through this agency, we were able to secure a $1 million grant to pay for the majority of that. And that is through all the the other agencies in here, City of Modesto, City of Oakdale, MID, so on and so forth. Any questions?
No, thank you. This has been going on since the early 90s.
Yes.
And has been doing fantastic work, which most of the state is starting to emulate the process here. I just hope they don't tax us because we're so far out in front.
Well, one more update from Parks and Rec Director Sue Fitzpatrick is going to give a quick update about Family Night Out, which is fast approaching.
Mayor and members of the council, we do have the Family Fun Night coming up in July, and it will be 3 Wednesday nights, July 11th, 18th, and 25th. And it will be in the evening. I think it starts at 5:30 and ends at 8:30, right around that area. We're hoping to have some craft vendors, food vendors, live entertainment, a lot of activities. The first night, July 11th, there will be the bike rodeo that's put on by Central Valley Resource Center and our sheriffs and fire department. So that's always fun, and that'll kind of kick off the first of the 3 Wednesdays. So we're just encouraging everyone to get excited about it and come out. Staff's excited. We're going to give it a good try to have a nice turnout and just a fun Wednesday night out for the community.
Thank you. All right, council comments. Councilmember Fossey?
Yeah, I just would like to have our citizens be aware that hopefully soon we will be starting the Budget Advisory Committee, which you heard about tonight. I do believe we have openings for that, so keep an eye out for applications. I encourage, if you have a background in finance or are interested in being involved, to please apply. And I'm looking forward to meeting anybody who does on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell.
Just a couple of things. One, the 4th of July is coming up. Fireworks will be out there. If you see something illegal going on, please try to contact the appropriate authorities. It is against the state law in the state of California for illegal fireworks. You can be put in jail as well as fined as much as $50,000. The other thing I'd like to mention, the rivers, they're still chilly. It's getting hotter. There have been several drownings in the area. So if you're around a river, watch for the children and whatnot, because the rivers can be very deadly at this time of the year.
Thank you. Councilmember Jones Cruz?
Yes, I agree with Cal here. I just, on my way over here, I saw the fire department's river rescue boat leaving, and every time I see that going down, it just scares me, because you know something bad's going on the river. Please be safe out there. And I'll say it once again, I always say it up here a couple times, the fire department passes out free life jackets. If you need to go and use one, get one before you head down to the river, and be safe out on the water. I also want to just, I know you probably mentioned it, but we had our strategic planning session yesterday, the council and the city staff, and it just makes me proud that we can all get together and do some planning like that. It just kind of, one, shows how much we've accomplished in the past and what we'd had worked on, and kind of gives us our directions of moving forward. So it was a very productive and a positive experience, and I was glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
So as Sue mentioned, we are going to have our Kids Health and Safety Bicycle Rodeo. There will be a lot of fun for the kids, food, music. Hope to see everyone there. And we have lots of raffle prizes and bikes, helmets, all kinds of good stuff going on. Remember that we have had some hot days recently, more hot days coming up. Hopefully it won't be too hot to have everybody out for our bicycle rodeo. So use your sunscreen, come on out, enjoy our parks. They are really beautiful. Remember our watering schedule, and have a safe July 4th. And there are lots of firework booths in the city of Riverbank. So please come out and support any of the nonprofits that are out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to, again, I know I did yesterday, but also extend the gratitude to our city employees who work hard to provide the best that they can in the municipal services. They are seeing our vision going forward, and they participated in a very tedious process, but I think we have a plan as we move forward. I want to thank them. I also want to, again, thank the miscellaneous employees for their memorandum of agreement, and I look forward to the next 4 years. I'm sure everything else will be coming along at the same. With that, we're going to go to closed session consisting of item 8.1 in public employment pursuant to Government Code, Section 54957 Bravo, Title City Manager. Item 8.2, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, Agency Representative Sean Scully, City Manager, Employee Organization, Mid-Management Bargaining Unit. At this time, the public may comment on any of these items for a maximum limit of 5 minutes. Is anyone wishing to comment on the closed session items? Seeing none, we are adjourned to closed session.
line, which is, he texted me after like 4 days or something, and he goes, I thought that the birth was supposed to actually be shorter than the actual gestation period. That's rare.
We resume the regular city council and local redevelopment authority meetings. Report from closed session, item 9.1. Report from closed session, item 8.1. Public employment, city manager. Direction have been provided to staff. Item 9.2. Report from closed session on item 8.2. Conference with labor negotiator, mid-management bargaining units. Again, direction has been provided to staff. This meeting is now adjourned.